welcome to Top of the Hops. I'm your host, Mike Riker, and so excited for my guest today for the first time. I was on his show a couple years ago on his YouTube show, the Whip Show on YouTube. It's a wrestling podcast. He just actually interviewed Matt and Jeff Hardy, which was a great interview, by the way. He has also the Whip and AK show on 106.1 from WAKT in Toledo. He's got so much other stuff going on too as well. He is the great DeSean Whipple. DeSean, what's up, brother?
What's going on, man? But I'm the big whip dog, man.
Big Whip
was my government, baby.
I love it, man. You Big Whip Dog's on Cameo too, right?
Yes, very much so. Very much so.
I love it. So you got so much stuff going on, man. I love the hustle. You're an entertaining guy, man. I love your podcast. I love watching you. Like I said before, I just watched the interview you guys did with Matt and Jeff Hardy. Great interview, by the way. You guys got to go check it out if you're a wrestling fan, especially. And I liked it, the DeSean, because it was a little different than from other interviews I've seen with them. You talked about their faith. You talked about their brotherhood. And even though you got into some wrestling, I love the way you went kind of outside the box there.
That's kind of our my whole team. And first of all, shout out to the Whip Show team. I've been blessed to have a great team behind me. My guys Najee, Joe Walker, Rigo, and Kanye, and my boy Jordan. But that's what our thing is. We know there's a million people doing podcasts and doing interviews. Right. And everybody talks about, well, back in 1996, you wrestled such and such. Yeah. I mean, that's cool. But I know, and I'm a former independent wrestler myself.
Right.
I know some of the guys just, they get tired of hearing the same thing over and over. Yeah. So I try to have a fun with them, talk to them, just have a conversation, man. Obviously, we're going to hit on some good wrestling topics, but I want them to really feel the interview as opposed to doing the interview. Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. And you could tell they were into it too. They were really happy with the interview. So yeah.
Oh man, Jeff Hardy gave a couple rap bars. I was like, wait a minute.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did. I thought it was great, man. I've never seen Jeff act like that. It was a really good spot you guys did with them. So much love to you guys. I love what you guys do. I'm always following. You're so entertaining. So now we had a conversation, I want to say a few months ago, about doing this podcast.
Yes.
So our topic today is something that DeSean came up with. He, as you see behind him, he is there you go, put the one there, the Roman Reigns, there you go. He is the guy. Now, me and you were kind of on the same page with the Rock stuff with Cody.
Ooh, yes.
I turned because Dave LaGreca is a very good friend of mine, so I went on Dave's side there at the end. But I'm a huge Rock fan, I'm a huge Roman fan, so I tend to kind of lean that way, especially after the last that Friday Night SmackDown promo those two did.
Yes,
was amazing. And they even mentioned on the show, Bully on Busted Open, Roman, if they did that in the arena, I gotta say, I think Roman would have gotten more cheers than Cody would have.
Bully said that, and I heard LaGreca. Don't get it twisted. I love LaGreca just like you're a part of the nation. But hearing him still try to say, no, I think Cody would have got more reaction, and Cody would still be the face. I'm like, bro, come on. You can't be oblivious at all. And it's funny, you were talking about how, that's your guy, so you had to be on his side. But I mean, I wanted to be, I couldn't be one of the haters that tweeted him really bad things. But I'm like, bro, come on. You're saying so many bad things about The Rock. You got to be crazy, man.
I was all Team Rock until the whole, when he called out LaGreca, and LaGreca kind of reverted back. So I had to go with my guy. But I will say, Saturday night of WrestleMania, I was rooting for The Rock. I was so happy he got the pin on Cody.
Oh,
because that as you'll know, that story's going to continue. So there's so much more levels. So our topic today will be the top 5 Bloodline moments. And I should put in parentheses, DeSean, so far, because there's going to be so much left on the there's so much meat on the bone with this storyline, man. Like we said, we talked about the Friday night, the promo they had. Obviously, they're tagging up at Bad Blood in Atlanta. I'm sure Survivor Series is going to be a whole big thing. So there's so much more left with this Bloodline storyline. The Rock's going to come back eventually too.
For sure. Yeah. I got to tell you, my list has so many honorable mentions. It's like you can just put stuff in and out. I mean, this one was hard. I thought it was going to be a lot easier, but this one is hard.
Yeah.
But I got to say, before I go any further, thank you for this show. Because not only we get to talk about one of my favorite things in the world, that's professional wrestling, we get to talk about beers. Well,
Yes.
top of the hops. I don't know if you guys can see it. I got a good old school Blake's apple cider
Oh,
American apple beer. I've been kind of shifted away from the IPAs to a little bit more ciders, trying to taste the different flavors. And if you guys have ever had Blake's, it is the best cider in the game.
where is Blake's, DeSean?
They actually are in Michigan.
They are
They're,
okay.
they're in Grand. They're out of Grand Rapids, Michigan, but I think they service and distribute all over the world.
Yeah. Okay. Great. I like to look for them because I'm into ciders, especially at this time of year.
Yeah, yeah.
Obviously, the fall coming up, and you had a great cider on your Facebook page. It was a cider donut, right?
Cider mill donut flavor. That's the one thing about Blake's. They have so many different flavors. I actually have another one here called Peach Party. They have triple berry jam. They even had a spicy, not a colada, but it was like a mango habanero
Oh
Blake's.
yeah.
And I mean, oh, man, cider already has that kick to it, but add
Right.
that spice. Woo!
You're talking my game, man. I went to a beer bash with my wife, and we had a cider donut there, and it was delicious. So I hear you. So I'm drinking today. I'm going local too. My friend, we're going Brooklyn Brewery.
Ooh,
And with it being the fall, I pulled out the brown ale, which
okay.
I usually don't drink a lot of brown ales. I'm not usually a dark beer fan, but this one I enjoy. I've had this before. Um, it's kind of got that coffee color to it,
Okay.
but it's not coffee flavored. I'm not a big coffee fan when it comes to beer.
Yeah, yeah.
But it's got that little roasty where it's a little bit more nutty than coffee, and it's got that little chocolate flavor too, which I like.
And for the
Uh,
people listening to the podcast, even though he said it's nutty, he's talking about his beer. Just
yes,
saying, just saying.
exactly. Right. So yeah, so I really enjoy this one. Like I said, it's got a little fruitiness too, which I like. Almost, I this is gonna sound weird and sound strange, but it's kind of like that fruit cake flavor,
Okay.
like a scent to it, but it doesn't taste it. It's got like a little fruitiness to the chocolate, which I like, and it's got a little caramel too, which I like.
Now,
So,
do you
Sean,
go
here's to you, brother.
do you go to a lot of the tastings?
I do, yeah.
Same, same.
There's a lot of breweries here. I've never been to Brooklyn Brewery, but I'm always buying their beer. They have some great beers, some great IPAs, some pilsners, ales. So like I said, I'm not really a dark beer fan, but this brown ale I really enjoy, especially like I said, this time of year, man. It's a perfect. It kind of gives you that warm feeling inside, which I
Yeah,
like, So like a cider too, like ciders especially in October, man, those are great to drink in October.
for sure. I will tell you this though, a lot of our stores, because here in Michigan, especially when you go to like Grand Rapids, Flint, which is about an hour and a half away from the Detroit area, they're really big on breweries up there. But I will tell you one thing about cider is because they taste so good, as you know, man, you can come out feeling really fluffy because they have cider tastings all over the city.
Oh, that's great.
So
Yeah, yeah, we have it at local where they just serve cider. It's not a brewery, it's a cidery they call it. And they have like 20 ciders on tap,
okay.
with all kinds of different flavors, from the regular apple to like peanut butter and jelly. So I mean, so they have some crazy ciders over there. So I've never been yet, but I've heard it's really great.
Sweet, sweet.
Now, Deshaun, you sent me a video a few months ago. You did some stuff with beer, right? You were selling, you were part
Ah,
of the company.
yes.
Yeah, tell us about that.
So there was a brand, and I think they're out of business now, but they were called American Lucky Buddha Beer.
That's right.
And
Okay.
there was a brand new beer that was getting off the ground. And they did a thing where a guy actually won like $10,000 and
That's
a lifetime supply of Lucky Buddha beer. I guess he would have known that the company would go out of business in 2 years. So a lifetime was only 2 years. But and they had this most amazing green bottle that I actually I should have brought it out. I still have one. It actually looked like Buddha. So they put the beer in that. And I mean, it actually was a really good Pilsner, man. I mean, smooth. And they actually, at first, they were going to pay me just in beer, which I probably would have accepted it.
Yeah.
But I was like, I got to get a couple dollars.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Exactly.
it was a really good thing, man. I got to dress up in my old wrestling Whipplemania character,
Oh, that's
which is a
awesome.
takeoff of the Black Hulk Hogan character. And we literally went to the guy's house. He had no idea. And it was me and his son knocked on his door. He opened up, not only saw his son, he got the huge check. and he got a lifetime supply of beer. So it was a
Uh,
great time. I'm glad I got to do it. I wish the brand was still going on, man.
yeah, that seemed like a great thing you did, and yeah, that guy was really happy when he got that when he won that. So, uh, yeah, so you've been a beer connoisseur for how long? Like, is that something you know when you first started drinking, or did that come later in life? Like for me, I didn't start drinking beer till like I was in my mid 40s.
Yeah, it definitely was later in life. I was one of those guys that you grow up ill, beer tastes so terrible. And
Yes,
people say, well, you got to get acclimated to the taste. And I'm like, well, we'll see. So I would drink more like a liquor. I'm gonna be honest. Wine. But as I got older, I started expanding.
right.
My fiance, she took me to because she's a staffing. I shouldn't be telling her, but she's a staffing coordinator at Michigan State University. But they
Okay.
have whiskey and Scotch tastings up there where they kind of talk about the history as well and pair it with food. So that's what kind of opened me up to trying different things. So I tried different whiskeys and scotches. Then we just went to a cider mill, that had the hay rides and all that stuff. And oh my God, I said, let me try cider. Because the problem with me and IPAs and stouts, some of them are too strong, too hoppy.
Yeah,
You know what I
I,
mean?
I understand. I like IPA, but I can only have one or two, and then I'm done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was more, if I did do a beer, I was a Bud Light type of guy, Corona, something like that. But then I got into the cider thing, and that kind of opened me up to try different beers. Then I went on a beer tour that they had here locally, and you were like on a party bus type of thing and going through the city, got to try different breweries, like 7 of them. And
Wow.
that's what kind of attracted me to, man, beer actually is pretty good if you try different ones. So now, yo, you give me a beer, we're gonna have a good time, man.
I love it. If you could choose one brewery in your area to go to, what would it be?
Founders.
Founders? Okay.
Yeah, Founders they have a really good beer. They make their own. They actually have a restaurant inside as well. And
Okay.
they're based out of Grand Rapids, Michigan, but they have locations all throughout Michigan, going all the way to the Midwest.
Oh
So they have
wow.
a
Okay.
couple in Ohio, they have a couple in Indiana as
I
well.
think I've heard of them. I think I've had some of their beers. I think that they've come out here in New York. I'm trying to think of some of the beers they've had, but I think I've had Founders. They do a breakfast stout, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I'm not a stout fan, but that was really good. It was like vanilla and almond. It was really good. They do, and instead of using coffee, they used oatmeal for their
Okay.
stout. Yeah, it was
Now
really
let
good.
me ask you a question.
Yeah,
Over the years, I've realized even though from a can is good, but I don't think it's nothing like a draft beer, bro.
I
What do you?
agree. I
Yeah.
agree, but I will say that if you notice, the bottles have kind of gone off by the wayside, and now
Yeah.
you're getting more cans. So I think they kind of I do like off draft better than the can. I do,
Yeah.
especially if you're in place. But the cans that back in the day, I used to love bottles of Coke instead of cans of Coke because they used
Yeah.
to taste better. But these days you don't see a lot of bottles of beer anymore. They're all
Yeah.
in cans now.
Very true.
I guess it's just cheaper. But you're right. If I'm at a restaurant or a bar or a brewery, there's nothing like coming out of the draft, man.
Oh,
It,
yeah.
it, it, it there's definitely a different flavor and taste to it.
Yeah. Totally agree. Totally
Yeah.
agree, man.
Yeah.
Totally agree.
All right, so let's get to it. I'm ready,
Yes.
man. This is gonna
Let's
be
go.
fun. So, again, we're both big Roman Reigns fans. This is our top 5 bloodline moments so far. This could change. We might have to do another episode, maybe next
Facts.
year, to kind of add to the list. But we'll start with you, DeSean. What do you have at number 5?
Number 5. Well, and I'm gonna tell you, technically, this was not a bloodline moment, but it led to the creation of everything.
Okay,
August 23rd, 2020, Roman Reigns returns to take out Braun Strowman and Bray Wyatt. We
love it.
don't have that. We don't have anything. If we remember prior to that, Braun Strowman was whooping Roman Reigns' tail.
Great point.
I mean, he was destroying that man. Roman came back for the first time as the heel that people always thought he should be. Totally annihilated both of them, and it set the tone for what was going to happen for the next 4 or 5 years. Well, really, infinity, but infinity, but
Yeah, I like that one, DeSean. I didn't even think about that one, but you're right. When he came out, he left. He was you see, before that he was gone for a few months, right? So he was gone. He had left. He was a face, but when he came back, we thought he was still a face, but he had a different look about him
uh-huh.
when he entered that ring, and like you said, started destroying everybody. And then I think it was the following week when they revealed that Paul
Yes.
Heyman was the guy, right?
Yep, yep.
Yeah. So that I like that one. That's a real good one. So yeah, I didn't even think about that. That did start the whole kind of bloodline movement there. My number five is really just one singular moment for me. It might be higher on a lot of other people's list. The only reason I have it, and it's not low, it's top five, but it's like for a couple minutes, and it's when Sami Zayn said Usi.
Are you
Uh,
serious?
yeah, I
That's my number four.
so let's keep talking. I love it. I love this one. Obviously it was supposed to be a serious moment, and it kind of went off base when Sammy
Yeah,
said, "Well, he's feeling a little oozy," and the look on Roman and Jay's face was just priceless. And to break both of those guys,
yeah,
especially Jay, who at the time, as we all know, was not supposed to like Sammy.
yep,
So,
yeah.
he was the one guy that didn't want Sammy on board.
Hmm.
But when he said Usi and Jay had to cover his face because he was laughing so hard.
Yeah.
I mean, dude, that was just incredible. So I'm gonna give you the floor since it's your number
Oh
four.
yeah, I'm on the same tip, man. I think that's what gave them the true personality and character. Now they
Yeah,
were able to have a little bit more fun with the
yeah,
bloodline. This
yes,
is where I think they first start acknowledging that the fans were starting to get behind them, even though they weren't supposed to. So now the
agreed.
backstage segments got to be a little bit more loose, a little bit more free. And I think that's when they really got to show their characters. With Jay doing the yeet thing now, I don't even know if that happens
Yeah,
if we don't have this Uzi moment where he can start letting loose and be more of just himself.
the fact that he turned "oos" into an adjective,
Yeah.
and then and then now you saw shirts with it on
Oh
with
yeah.
and stuff like that. So just a brilliant job by Sami Zayn, and like I said, just seeing the looks on those faces. And you're right, it became kind of like they became not fan favorites, but they became a little bit more likable
Yeah.
with that scene. So so we almost agreed. That was my number five. Your number four. So my number four to me, DeSean, was, and you made a great point when Roman beat Braun Strowman for that title in 2020. But to me, the real bloodline moment for me was when Roman beat Jay at Hell in a Cell in 2020. I love that feud, and that guy kind of gets overlooked. A, because it was during COVID. B, because they did so many other great things as a group that more people remember Roman versus Jay at SummerSlam.
Yeah.
But I think this one really started it. You had that great ending where, Jimmy comes in and he's about to really, just beat the crap out of Jay, and Jimmy's pleading with him, and Roman starts crying and then still beats the shit out of him and
Yeah.
Jimmy. And then, of course, to me, the highlight of the entire thing is when he's going up that ramp, and who's there trying to meet him? Afa and Sika.
Yeah.
And they put that thing on him. And that to me was really the huge start of this whole bloodline thing. Because then after that, both Jimmy and Jay joined Roman. And then, of
Hmm.
course, the floodgates started. So I love, and that match is very underrated. Again, it's unfortunate because there's no people in the building,
Right.
so you don't really have that emotion. But I thought Roman at the end really brought that emotion back, the way he, cried and didn't want to really hurt his cousins, but he had to become the chief and become the head of the table. So that's why that's my number four.
I definitely like that choice. I mean, that's an honorable mention for me, but I definitely can see how I got on your list. I mean, that moment solidified him as like the Godfather. Because
Yes.
even though as we know, they're not that far off in age. But something about the
No.
way he did that match, that feud, it was like, bro, this mother effer is crazy. Like
Right.
he
Right.
can turn it on at any point.
Yeah, and it was funny because for me as a fan, when Jake got that title shot, I'm like, all right, it's interesting, but I still thought of him as a tag champion. But that really elevated even Jay to a little bit too, that match. And then of course, as we know, what just happened on Monday with him winning the IC title, he's so over now, DeSean, that it's
Yeah,
just it's incredible what's happened over the past few years.
very much so. Very much so.
All right, number three.
My number three, and this probably won't be on anyone's list, but it's on
Oh,
my list because I was in the building the night that it happened. And I've been referencing Grand Rapids with my beer choices. I was in the building in Grand Rapids, not as media, totally as a fan, in SmackDown when the Usos unified the tag titles and put RK Bro on the shelves.
Wow, that's an interesting one. Yes.
The
Okay.
reason why I picked that moment, because yes, they were already champions, but I think that moment, seeing that visual, and I remember the Four Horsemen. I'm old enough to remember those guys
Me
having all the
too.
belts. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, me and you are the same age, Deshaun.
See,
So
you exactly. So seeing the bloodline with all the titles, I think to me it was like, man, these guys are monsters. They can't be beaten. And if you were a true bloodline fan, I didn't want to ever lose that visual of them having all the gold. If it was up to me, they'd have had it for 10 years. I know it sounds bad, but that's how much I would have had it.
I love that choice, and I like that it's personal for you that you were there. That's really cool, and that's a great match, by the way. Usos, by the way. I mean, you could argue, Deshaun, that they might be the greatest tag team of all time, especially WWE wise. Just those matches, people don't realize how great the matches they had, that feud they had with New Day.
Yes.
Even before all this stuff, like they were putting on some fantastic stuff. But that match against, like you said, RK Bro, that led to kind of like the almost like the Riddle getting hurt and Randy Orton getting hurt. So that's a great match. But I missed them as a tag team. I love Jay as a singles guy, but as a tag team, they were just so God. They're so good together. And you're right, that match is really good. And you're right. I love the Four Horsemen analogy, because you're right. When they're all holding the titles, boy, it makes them look bigger and makes them look
Yeah.
stronger.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great number three. My number three might be someone's number one, but it's my number three. And it's Survivor Series. When Sammy hugged Jey Uso.
Okay. Okay.
I
Okay.
absolutely love that. First of all, it's a great match, but the entire story was about, will Sammy, you know, beat up Kevin Owens? Will Jay trust Sami Zayn? You remember, in the beginning when, they do the war games and Jay wants to go out. Well, actually, Jay was started off, but Jimmy wants to go out, and Roman puts his hand and goes, "No, I want Sam to go help him." And Sammy goes and wants to prove his worth to Jay. But I love the moment when he low blows Kevin Owens and does the
Yeah.
Aluva kick and makes Jay pin him. And next thing you know, they're hugging. And I've never seen, they're supposed to be a heel. And the entire crowd
Yes.
goes nuts when they hug. And the joy and the just the absolute joy on Sami Zayn's face, that it's like he finally was accepted by Jay, you know. And just like I said, just the reaction from that crowd. Again, they're supposed to be heels,
Right.
but we had this emotional connection with Sammy, that we felt bad for him. We liked him. He was funny, and the fact that he finally got Jay to accept him, like I said, it was emotional. And for a heel group like that, who's supposed to be badasses, for them to have that emotional moment, I thought was kind of rare. I love that moment, and that's why it's my
Ooh,
number three.
I like that. I like that, man. I definitely can see that as well. I mean, you have an emotional attachment when it hurts you as an individual when a
Yeah.
team breaks up or loses the title. And that's why that was the moment I'm like, they're together. I love to see this. So once they kicked Sammy out, I was like, oh, please don't do it. You know what I
Right.
mean? That's
Right.
how I truly felt, man. So I like that. I like that, man.
All right,
Okay.
we're close to Sean. Number two, what do we have?
Number two, again, I was not there as immediate as at all. I was watching it as a fan with my pizza, beer, and wings in my room with the TV turned on. And I'm gonna tell you, I was scared to watch the TV at this moment, this PLE, because I'm thinking it is finally over for the bloodline. So now you might know where I'm going. I'm taking you to April 8th,
Ooh.
2024, WrestleMania, when the whole world thought Cody Rhodes was going to beat, including Dave LaGreca, thought the whole world was going to beat, that they were going to beat Roman Reigns. And when Roman hit that 3 count, and them fans were so pissed, like it was the Mid-South Coliseum
Yeah.
back in the 80s. That's when I was like, this is what professional wrestling is, because they had a whole building of people ready to fight, go crazy, and you do not hardly get that reaction anymore in professional wrestling. So when Roman Reigns beat Cody Rhodes at WrestleMania was my number two.
That's a good one. Yeah, it shocked everybody. It shocked me. I was rooting for Roman in that match because, and not to like think I was an expert or anything, but I didn't want Cody to win just yet because it was about hard times. It was
Yeah,
like it seemed too easy for him to win that match, and then it'd be like, all right, he won. So now what's next? And I just felt there was so much more with the bloodline and Roman Reigns at the time.
yeah.
And I was, and you know how Dave reacted to that match. He was so upset and yelling and screaming, and he was proven wrong. But
For like a week and a half. Might have been longer than
yeah,
a week and a
yeah.
half, man.
And I remember Bully and Mark say, dude, slow down. It's going to be
Yeah.
okay. He's got to go through hard times. And if you remember, Cody went through, next thing was Brock Lesnar was going
Mhm.
through that whole thing. And that lasted for a few months. And Cody had to go through a lot of, ups and downs and peaks and valleys before he was able to get a rematch. And to me, if they had pulled that trigger, you would lose so much from that bloodline
Yeah.
going forward. You would lose Roman versus Jay at SummerSlam, and Jimmy kind of turning on Jay, and you would missed all that. So I think you're correct, DeSean. I was so happy that Roman won that match originally because I just thought, first of all, it shocked everybody, which I love.
Yes.
I love the shock that everybody had. It was almost, I'm not gonna say it was Undertaker Brock Lesnar like, but it was close.
Oh yeah.
A lot of people were very surprised that Cody didn't win that.
I think
And
Roman said that at the press conference, like, huh, it's a lot of shocked faces in the building.
yeah,
Because even he knew that everybody thought that he was going to take the 1, 2, 3.
right, absolutely. So yeah, that's a good one. That's definitely out of the box. My number two is also a little out of the box. And I will say this moment kept me up most of the night because I was texting and calling with LaGreca and a bunch of other my friends, wrestling friends, about this moment, and that is the WrestleMania press conference, with The Rock and Roman.
Oh yeah.
And
Yeah.
I just, you know what? I know it doesn't involve the Usos, but I just love the way they turned that around. That press conference left me like with so many questions. If you, as you remember, man, it was, Cody gave up his spot. It was The Rock and Roman, which I was happy with. I like you. I
You know
wanted
I
Rock versus
was.
Roman. Everybody wanted Rock versus Roman. Now all of a sudden nobody wanted it anymore. So when they had that press conference and then Cody said, "No, I want that title shot back," and Rock slaps Cody, and the fight's on, and it's just like, holy shit, where is this going?
Yeah.
So I was up most of the night, like, oh my god, I had to rewatch it to make sure what I watched was real, because I love the way The Rock came out and showed the kind of the actual bloodline, that the
Yeah. Yeah.
graphic he had up there with all the
Uh-huh.
NOIs and everybody from Rikishi to Alpha and Sika to everybody. I mean, if you look really close, you'll see guys on the independent scene right now that
Uh-huh.
are wrestling as the NOIs. So I love that moment. To me, that started the whole Rock, the final boss stuff. The backstage stuff with Triple H I thought was great, and when he said, "Fucking fix this shit." So to me, it made Rock, and it was funny because that same day he was on Pat McAfee, and that was the
Yep.
same. He said that's when he first started calling everybody the Cody Crybabies,
Mhm.
and then he basically just went full force with it at that press conference, and then all of a sudden the race was on. And
Yeah.
I just love that press conference. To me, that's what started this whole kind of Rock Cody Roman thing. To me, that's why it's my number two.
Ooh, nice, nice. It definitely almost shifted the whole culture, but not just of that. I think of WWE because, like you just said, when he told Triple H, "Fix this fucking thing," he
Yeah,
clearly said
right,
that.
right,
So now,
exactly.
when they go to Netflix, we won't be surprised because he was the one opened up even more reality base in the
Yes.
WWE by just talking how somebody would actually talk in that situation. So yeah, I definitely think that
Yeah,
one, man.
and it shows, and you know what it does, Deshaun? It shows the greatness of the mind of The Rock too. That
Yeah,
he was he saw that, hey, the groundswell for Cody is really hot here. We have to go with it, and we got to do something different. And boy, man, he just turned it on to another level. I love that heel Rock, the whole final boss thing.
Yeah.
His promos, not only in the ring, but on Twitter and on Facebook,
Woo!
on YouTube was just tremendous. Him calling out LaGreca was hilarious. But just this, and him beating up Cody and leaving him bloody and stuff like that. You're
Yeah.
right. You made a great point, DeSean. Him doing all that stuff, the cursing, it made them more almost attitude era like
Yes.
during those couple of months. It was tremendous. And I can't wait. We saw Cody and Rock have that little moment after WrestleMania. There's
Yeah.
something brewing there. So
Oh yeah.
I can't wait till they meet again. So that's why it's my number two. So
And
all right,
Brian Gewirtz was actually on Busted Open. Did you
that's
hear that
right.
interview? And he talked about when The Rock was like, you know what, called him at what 3 in the morning. He said was like, they want it. I'm gonna give them the heel, but if I'm gonna go heel, I'm going all the way in.
Yeah.
And it was just a beautiful thing. So he definitely a good choice, man.
All right. You're number one, buddy.
Now this one number here, as much as I loved everything the final boss did, and he's actually honorable mention on him, he actually did not make my number one spot.
Okay.
Surprisingly enough. The number one spot, surprisingly enough, is one of the most recent moments in the Bloodline history.
Okay.
SmackDown last week, the one-on-one Roman versus Cody stare down in the Georgia Tech Arena or whatever it's called. Listen, I know people are going to say, out of all the things they did, that was number one. I think this little bit right there connected everything.
Yeah.
I'm talking about all 4 years. And it showed that we can push this another 4, 5, 6, 7 years. This ain't the NWO. And I
Right.
love the NWO. Understand that. They said it was for life. This really could be for life. And I think that moment in time solidified that, yes, this is not done. We got a whole nother story. What does LeGrec and the guys always say? That Paul Heyman said they were only in the third inning.
Right.
Bro, this shows we're like only in the fourth. So
Man,
that's my number one.
that's a brilliant choice, DeSean. I'll be honest with you, I didn't think about that. I want to redo my list after because that is a fantastic number one. You're so right, and you mentioned it on your Facebook page and your YouTube. That promo might be one of the best promos I've ever seen. The way they shot it, the way Roman came in with those cars, and then Cody came in with that white car by himself driving in, and the way they talked about Atlanta. Roman, this is my field, this is my home, and Cody's like, my family bled over there at the what they used to call the Omni, and so no, this is my home, and just incredible stuff, and and I think even Mark Henry mentioned it. Like, that's something that should be Emmy Award like because
Yes.
it was shot so beautifully. Those two guys just nailed it, and we talked about it earlier. And I'll reiterate, I'm glad they did it at the Georgia Tech field because if they did that in the building, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
Roman Reigns would have been cheered and Cody would have been booed. Sorry, LaGreca, but it's just fact. Now that could change. We don't know, but it just, like you said, it makes things interesting. And this now all of a sudden extends things, not only
Easily.
for Roman. And I'll be honest with you, DeSean, I love Cody. I kind of thought and it's not his fault. I just don't think there's enough heels. I
Yeah.
think his championship reign has been a little stale, just a tiny bit.
Thank you.
And yeah,
Yes.
and I think now this is kind of now jump started a little bit now because now
Mhm.
you're thinking in the back of your mind, Cody Roman's going to have to happen, soon,
Yeah.
and you got Rock in the back seat. So there's like you said, there's so many layers to this. It'll be interesting war games wise because you figure it's going to be Bloodline versus Bloodline, but who does Roman choose? That's
Right.
the thing. Will it be Jay? Jay seems to be on his own. He's the IC champion. Does he really want to get back into that? Will we see Jimmy again? Will we see maybe another member of the Uso family? Will he have Sami Zayn come back? It's going to be very interesting. You're right. They're not in the ninth inning. They're in the fourth or fifth.
Oh man,
There's
yes,
so much
definitely.
more here. And you could argue, DeSean, that this Bloodline storyline might be the greatest storyline in the history of wrestling.
Totally agree. Now let me ask you a quick question.
Yeah.
Are you before you give your number one?
Yep.
You're a producer. You do radio, and I'm assuming you did TV and everything. Why do you think they don't look at professional wrestling stories as Emmy Award winning?
I still think it's a stigma, unfortunately, with wrestling that it's. And you're right. I mean, it's a television show, so it should be like nominated for Emmys. I just think it's a stigma for wrestling. It's unfortunate that they don't consider that kind of like, like Emmy award winning because it should be because the way that that was shot and the way it was produced and the way those guys, acted, or however you want to say it, was just almost. I mean, their timing was impeccable. That the way Cody stepped into Roman at the end there. I mean, it was just Sean, the music even behind it was great. Like it was just perfect. Yeah, it's a great point. I mean, I just don't think wrestling is still considered it's not serious enough
Mm.
for the masses. It's unfortunate, but I'll say this: that should be sent to the Emmys because that should be nominated because that was an incredible, incredible scene.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So my number one to me is Royal Rumble 2023 is when Sammy turned on Roman. Um, I actually I
You
see the
trying to make me cry?
um the pop it got when he hit him with the
Mhm.
chair was incredible. He didn't want to hurt Kevin Owens, obviously he's still his friend. Um, I just love also too. You want to talk about acting? Sammy's face when he turned to Jay and looked, I'm sorry, I had to. And
Yeah.
Jay looking at him, I'm like, what are you doing? Like,
Ooh.
it's just those two guys looking at each other. And then of course Jimmy super kicking Sami Zayn and but that moment when he finally had enough of Roman Reigns and hit him in the back, I could argue, DeSean, I know it was Cody's moment, but I could argue that, Sami Zayn, that could have been Sami Zayn's moment. And
Yeah.
if you had put Sami Zayn versus Roman Reigns at WrestleMania, I think it could have been just as big as Cody versus Roman.
I heard a podcast and Sammy said that, I mean, Cody said that Sammy actually threw a monkey wrench and everything
He
because
did.
they didn't think the fans were going to reach out to. So, and even into the last month, there was a question of should Sammy be the one to
Right.
defeat Roman? Like they literally said, Cody said this. It threw everything off.
It did, and there was a moment there in Montreal, for that February pay per view where I thought there might be a shot for Sami Zayn to win that title. I'm glad they didn't go that route, but God, Sammy was on such a roll after that, DeSean. That you know you're right. They threw a wrinkle into it, but I just love that moment because yeah, it wasn't the end of the bloodline. It was just the end for Sami Zayn, and
Yeah.
it's created so much more chaos between Jay and Roman and Jimmy and Jay, and just like as you remember, Jay was still kind of on Sammy's side a little bit.
Yeah.
They would try to sneak and talk in the back, and Jay would look around, make sure Roman wasn't near. So he was talking to Sammy, and you gotta get out of it. I just love that moment, and that, like I said again, that pop, it still gives me chills. I got
Yeah.
goosebumps now thinking about it. So that's why it's my number one. So I love that we kind of had different different things to talk about. And it shows you the greatness of this bloodline storyline because there's so many other moments that we didn't even get
Oh man, we
to.
could have threw 10 more in.
Absolutely,
And I want to
absolutely.
say to WWE, anybody there that happens to hear this, thank you for the storyline.
Yes,
I don't think they've had a layered storyline like this in years.
you're
Like
right.
it's got to be 3, 4, 5 dimensional. You know
Right.
what I mean? And it actually, I think Cena said it himself. One thing about Roman and the Bloodline as a whole, it elevated everybody.
Yes, it
Cena
did.
said, as much as people call him the GOAT, he realized that he might have elevated the person he wrestled for that moment, but never did everybody get elevated long term as Roman did. So
Yeah. Yeah. I
salute,
mean,
kudos.
yeah, I mean, we talked about it. I mean, we had moments on our list that are in 2020. So you're talking about we're coming up on, next year's gonna be 5 years with this storyline. I don't think there's been a storyline that long, DeSean.
Bro, when I was looking up the dates, I didn't realize, like you
Right.
said, it was that far. It seems like it was yesterday.
I know it does. It does. It's been so great. So what's your top five Bloodline moments? Please comment down below. DeSean, what do you got coming up on your podcast, buddy?
Definitely check us out, man. If you haven't already, make sure you listen to that Matt and Jeff interview. It was really fun, a great interview. We did an interview with Moose here recently. I'm actually going to be going down to AEW. they got Collision in Toledo, Ohio.
Oh,
I
nice.
got an in-studio interview with the AEW All Elite Wrestler. I'm not going to say it just yet. It'll be a
Okay.
surprise, but it's going to be real. It's going to be big. But that's coming up next week as well. So definitely just check us out at the Whip Show podcast, and check out all my other shows on there. My guy Najee, he does NXT with Najee. He's actually in the NXT Performance Center each and every week, so he's giving you live review from actually in the building. So yeah, check that out as well.
That's tremendous, man. DeSean, thank you, my brother, for joining me today. I got more ideas for us, man. I can't wait. I want to do more shows with you, man. You're the
Let's get it,
best.
bro. Let's get it, man. Thank you for your
All
time
right.
too, man.
You
Take care,
got it,
bro.
man. Guys, don't worry. Be happy, and we'll see you on the other side.